So, welcome to your daily news brief and deep dive. Today is July 18th, 2026, and we're unpacking a really fascinating stack of sources for you.
Right. And it's a day of just jarring contrasts, honestly. I mean,
hmm
we're looking at a society that seems to be living in two completely different centuries at the exact same time.
Yeah, exactly. On one hand, you have private companies launching diamonds into orbit, right? And the government rolling out these high-speed bullet trains.
But then, on the other hand, you have millions of young students literally starving themselves in the streets just to get a fair exam paper.
It's wild. So our mission today is to connect these dots. We're going to go through these major updates one by one and explore how a nation, well, how the whole global economy manages this kind of rapid, unprecedented change.
Basically, a world in fast forward, but one that keeps tripping over its own shoelaces.
Well put. Let's start with our first story, which is the clearest symbol of that rapid change. Skyroot Aerospace, India's first space tech unicorn, is prepping to launch Vikram 1 from Sriharikota.
And this is a massive milestone because it's India's first privately built orbital rocket. The sources actually describe their business model as a cab service to space.
A cab service, so like an Uber for satellites?
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
Historically, if you wanted to launch a payload, you waited for a government space agency to build a massive rocket. You were basically waiting for a giant bus, sharing the ride with dozens of others on their schedule.
Which could take years, I imagine.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But since the space sector opened to private firms in 2020, we've seen over 400 startups. Skyroot says they can now manufacture an entire rocket every single month.
Wow, every month. And the payloads for this test mission, which they're calling Agman, are just fascinating. They have practical stuff like a robotic arm for space debris removal, but also these purely symbolic items.
Right, like the cosmic bloom,
Yeah, a lotus flower made entirely out of lab-grown diamonds.
which is just brilliant marketing.
Yeah.
It shows off Indian synthetic diamond manufacturing capabilities while playing on that whole diamond in the sky imagery.
And the second symbolic payload is even crazier. It's a tiny, solid gold rocket. And inside it are microsculptures of three legendary scientists, C.V. Raman, APJ Abdul Kalam, and Vikram Sarabhai.
And the scale of this is hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah, they're smaller than a single grain of rice.
Right, which proves to potential clients that their aerospace engineering tolerances are just incredibly precise. I mean, if you can carve a face on something that small, your rockets are probably pretty reliable.
Definitely. Okay, so moving from space tech back down to Earth for a second story, the way we travel on the ground is also getting a huge upgrade.
Oh, the new trains.
Yes, PM Modi just flagged off India's first hydrogen-powered train running between Jind and Sonapat. And he tied this to thousands of crores in development projects across Haryana, Chandigarh, and Punjab.
But the really interesting part is what he said during the launch. He specifically brought up the ongoing conflict in West Asia, focusing on the Hormuz Sea route.
Right. He made this historical comparison, saying that if this Hormuz conflict had happened before 2014, Indian railways would have basically stopped running because they relied so heavily on imported diesel.
Exactly. So while hydrogen and electric trains are great for the environment, the real driver here is national security.
It's about raw energy independence.
Yeah. Look at the numbers from the sources. Electrification started in 1925, but for 90 years, up to 2014, only about 30% of the network was electrified.
And now,
In just the last 12 years, it's jumped to nearly 99%. By getting off diesel, you are surgically disconnecting your domestic transit from Middle Eastern politics.
so if oil stops flowing through Hormuz, troops and goods can still move across India. Which brings us right into our third story, because that insulation is critical right now. The situation in the Middle East isn't just tense, it's actively escalating.
Yeah, the sources confirm the U.S. has intensified its bombing campaign inside Iran. And they aren't just hitting military targets.
They're hitting infrastructure, right?
Right. Bridges in southern Iran, an airport near the Pakistani border, and even a railway station in Bandar Kamir.
Wow. A railway station, which just proves your point about railways being supreme national security assets.
Exactly. And in retaliation, Iran has targeted U.S. bases and started disrupting the Strait of Hormuz itself.
Yeah, the details here are grim. U.S. Marines boarded a tanker, another vessel was hit by an unidentified projectile, and Iran actually announced the closure of the waterway.
While Washington tries to reimpose a blockade on Iranian ports, so the global energy market is basically watching a match drop into a powder keg.
Which is a terrifying backdrop for global trade. But pivoting back to India's own infrastructure for our fourth story, This global push for modernization brings us to the Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-speed rail, the bullet train.
Right, which has seen some serious diplomatic friction lately.
Yeah, former Japanese Minister Hideki Makihara publicly criticized delays in the project and claimed Japanese tech was being excluded from the signaling system.
Which is pretty rare, to see that level of public pushback between close partners on a flagship project. But the ministries of external affairs and railways shut it down fast.
They formally rejected his claims, called it his personal opinion, and confirmed the Japanese E10 Shinkansen trains, the ones that do 320 kilometers per hour, are still coming in the early 2030s.
But there's an interim strategy for the 2027 launch between Surat and Billamora.
Right. They're going to use an indigenous train developed by Bemel that maxes out at 280 kilometers per hour. Which, to play devil's advocate here, sounds a bit like a stopgap just to hit a political deadline, doesn't it?
Well, it's easy to see it that way, but operationally, it's actually a crucial stepping stone.
How so?
Running a rail network at nearly 300 kilometers per hour requires a totally new culture of safety and maintenance. Introducing the 280 kilometer per hour local trains first gives the ground crews and drivers years of real-world practice.
Ah, I see. You don't just jump into a Formula One car on day one.
Exactly. And regarding that signaling drama Makihara mentioned, Siemens won that tender because India adopted the European Train Control System, or ETCS. Japan didn't even bid for it.
Wait, why use a European signaling system for Japanese trains?
Because ETCS is digital and radio-based. Older systems use physical copper cables on the tracks, which degrade or just get stolen for scrap.
Oh, wow. So ETCS is like a secure Wi-Fi network for the trains.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
The train constantly pings its location and speed. It lets trains run closer together safely, and the Japanese trains are fully compatible with it. Taiwan uses this exact hybrid setup right now.
That makes a lot of sense. So for our fifth story, we shift gears completely. We have this incredible futuristic infrastructure, but the young people meant to inherit it are out on the streets fighting an existential crisis.
It's really stark contrast.
Yeah, climate activist Sonam Wangchuk has now passed the 20-day mark of an indefinite hunger strike, demanding the education minister resign over massive irregularities in the NEET exams.
And the medical stats are deeply concerning. His blood pressure has dropped to 108/68.
And the younger ISIS students protesting with him are faring even worse. According to the sources, Neha has dangerously low blood sugar, Amin lost 14% of his body mass, and Manish has dropped over 10 kilograms.
The physical toll is just immense.
It is. Jantar Mantar is packed. High-profile figures are visiting, even Olympic medalist Manu Baker. And Amir Khan actually had to issue a statement from London to clear up a pop culture myth.
Oh, right, about his movie.
Yeah, he clarified that Wangchuk didn't inspire his character in Three Idiots, though he did express support for the students. But to understand the anger, we have to look at the numbers Rahul Gandhi shared in Dehradun.
Right, he stated that paper leaks have basically become the norm.
He cited 152 reported leak cases over a decade, with 0 convictions, and that affects 7.5 core students. Gandhi called the system a menu card for those with money, saying an outdated system can't stop modern tech cheaters.
And strictly looking at the structural vulnerability here, that scale is mind-boggling. 7.5 crore youth is the population of a major European country.
So how does a standardized test leak 152 times?
Because they're using 19th century logistics for a 21st century digital population. You print massive batches of physical papers, load them onto trucks, store them in vaults, and distribute them to thousands of schools.
Right, and every person touching that paper is a potential leak.
Exactly. Organized syndicates use encrypted messaging and micro cameras to exploit that physical chain. It's an architectural flaw.
Which is why the proposed solutions involve highly secure digital question banks generated minutes before the exam and totally nonpartisan university leadership.
Yeah, it requires a complete systemic teardown.
Moving to our sixth story, the tone of those student protests is so different from the political rallies happening right now. PM Modi held a massive rally in Jalandhar and just launched a blistering attack on the AAP.
He was definitely not pulling punches. He flipped their slogan, calling them a Qatar Biman party, meaning fiercely corrupt.
Right. And he listed specific allegations. A sacked Punjab health minister, MLAs on tape negotiating bribes, and money laundering cases.
He also tied them to law and order issues, like the attack on an Amritsar police station by Amritpal Singh's supporters.
Which is a heavy accusation. He also brought up Delhi, pointing to the conviction of former AAP counselor Tahir Hussein in the 2020 Delhi riots, claiming the party shields individuals for communal vote banks.
It's the peak of election season rhetoric. It's designed to be loud and immediate.
But then, and this is our seventh story, you look at the actual judicial system, and the pacing is entirely inverted.
Right, the Allahabad High Court?
Exactly. They just addressed the Krishna Janmabhumi Shahi Idgah mosque dispute. We're talking 18 different civil suits over a Mughal-era mosque and Lord Krishna's birthplace. It's incredibly sensitive.
And what did the court do? They simply adjourned it to August 25th.
Because both sides asked for more time, the contrast is wild, politicians are throwing rhetorical grenades, and the courts are just hitting the pause button. Why move so slowly?
Because in highly sensitive situations, the legal system acts as a pressure valve. The sources note this reflects a mediation process under the Supreme Court's direction, tied to Lok Adalat dates.
So alternative dispute resolution.
Exactly. By pushing for mediation outside of adversarial public trials, they're deliberately taking it slow to maintain public order. It's a strategy to let tempers cool down.
That makes sense. Okay, speaking of losing our tempers, our eighth story is about booking flights online. The CCPA just fined SpiceJet for using dark patterns in their ticketing algorithms.
And a fine was a whopping 1 lakh rupees.
1 lakh, that's it, for forced upselling and pre-ticking boxes so you accidentally subscribe to the Spice Club?
Yep. And according to the sources, after being warned, they just shifted the pre-tick boxes to SMS and WhatsApp formats.
That is so frustrating. But how do these dark patterns actually work?
They weaponize your cognitive load. When you book a flight, your brain is juggling dates, baggage rules, seat selections. You have decision fatigue.
Right, you're exhausted by the end of it.
So the algorithm introduces tiny frictions. If unchecking a vaguely worded fee requires 3 extra clicks, they bet you'll just click next to get it over with. It monetizes frustration.
Which is why industry experts are so angry about this fine. Captain Sam Thomas noted that Indigo was once fined 22 crore for operational issues. 1 lakh for SpiceJet is just a microscopic cost of doing business.
Exactly. If the fine is cheaper than the profit from the deceptive design, the regulation has basically failed.
All right, on to our ninth story. While we're arguing over airline ticket boxes, a literal algorithmic tsunami just dropped in China. Moonshot AI unveiled Kimi K3.
This is a geopolitical earthquake. Kimi K3 is a 2.8 trillion parameter open source AI model.
2.8 trillion. Just to clarify for everyone, what is a parameter?
Think of them as digital synapses. They dictate the AI's ability to reason and generate language. A model this size rivals the very best American systems, like OpenAI's GPT or Anthropic's Claude.
But the kicker here is that it's open source. Anyone can download it.
And that changes the entire global strategy. The U.S. has been treating advanced AI as a national security asset, restricting high-end microchips to keep Western dominance.
They even forced Anthropic to pull models over cybersecurity recently.
Right. But by releasing a model this powerful for free, China is proving they can completely bypass those U.S. hardware restrictions. They are commoditizing the exact tech Silicon Valley wants to hoard.
Which democratizes it globally and neutralizes the U.S. commercial grip overnight. It's incredible. Okay, before our brains completely melt, our 10th and final story is a quick breather from the cricket pitch.
Oh, thank goodness.
Right. So all those rumors about Rohit Sharma retiring after the upcoming Lord's ODI against England, the BCCI has officially put a stop to them.
Yeah. Board Secretary Devajit Saikia confirmed there are absolutely no such discussions happening.
They made it clear Sharma is central to their 2027 World Cup plans.
Which is smart team building. You want young talent, but in massive international tournaments, you absolutely need the stabilizing presence of a veteran captain.
You need the anchor. Okay, that wraps our 10 items, but let's take a step back. We covered a massive amount of ground. We saw rockets, bullet trains, hydrogen power, a nation sprinting forward.
But we also saw the friction, geopolitical threats to our supply chains, slow judicial mediation, and unchecked corporate algorithms.
And at the very base of all that, those 7.5 crore youth fighting for a fair exam system. Which brings me to a final thought for you to mull over. We talked about those students starving themselves at Jantar Mantar just for the chance to take a physical paper exam fairly.
Right.
But while they're fighting that battle, Kimi K3, a free open source AI with 2.8 trillion parameters, is out in the world.
An AI that can write code, summarize documents, and do entry-level knowledge work flawlessly 204/7.
Exactly. By the time these protesting students navigate this broken 19th century bureaucracy and graduate, they won't just be competing with each other for jobs. They'll be competing against freely available AI that can instantly do the work they studied years for.
If we can't securely deliver a multiple-choice test, how do we equip them for the AI revolution? It is the defining challenge of our time.
It really is something to think about as you go about your day. Thank you for joining us on this daily news brief, and as always, keep questioning the world around you. Join us next time.